Welcome. Here we are, DC, Washington, DC, doing some serious advocacy work. It has been wild. I've got my sister, Hambone. Y'all remember Hambone? I got Hambone here. Ann has been here helping to keep me on the straight and narrow. I am so in 1,000 directions at any given time. So it's always a blessing when Ann has the time and ability to come and help keep me straight. And we did that yesterday, right? Like yesterday was crazy. So we did a ton of stuff yesterday. I'm trying to even remember. So our first stop yesterday was where? Probably the OAC thing?
Well, yeah, you were at the roundtable discussion.
Yeah, so I want to kind of give you the lay of the land of kind of what we've been doing and kind of give you as much of a recap as I can. So yesterday, the first thing that I did, which was actually the impetus for us coming out here originally, is I sat in on it was kind of a closed door thing. I don't say that in a snooty way. It's just, I kind of expected it to be more interactive with the general public. And I got here and it was kind of a closed door thing with myself and a lot of really, I mean, it was a who's who in obesity medicine. And so it was like a roundtable of just a lot of thought leaders in obesity medicine, and it was honestly, I was just very very honored to be in the company of the people that I was in the company of. And the whole event was put on by the Obesity Action Coalition along with Amgen. So if y'all are familiar with Amgen, they're not big in the obesity space yet, but they have a phase 3 candidate that's kind of exciting called PEPTIDE. And PEPTIDE is a double acting monoclonal antibody injectable for obesity that is a GLP-1, but it's a GIP blocker. So it's kind of an interesting one that we've talked a little bit about here at On the Pen. And so it was a really interesting conversation around the topic of how to combat obesity bias, which I think is a great thing to be able to participate in. Now, what I really enjoyed, and again, because this was it was actually something that I will be compensated for being at, and their request was that we don't share a lot publicly about what was discussed. And so I want to give you at least a high level, because I think the story that has been woven over the last 24 hours has been a very positive and encouraging one. So I sat in this roundtable discussion for about 6 hours or so. It was a very long roundtable discussion, and had the opportunity to really say a lot of things that I felt from my perspective that the Obesity Action Coalition was maybe having some blind spots on. And so I was really honored to be able to represent you all, the community of people who are benefiting from the advocacy work that the OAC has been doing. Like you have to look at the breadth of what the OAC has done, and other organizations like the Obesity Society. They have fought for patient access. We do not have access to these medications the way that we do today without organizations like the Obesity Action Coalition. But I wanted to be able to speak from the patient perspective, and I believe that's why they brought me in. So I got to say a lot of things that I felt needed to be said, and I got to learn a lot as well. And so it was a really positive experience. And then after the meeting, I spent about 30 minutes in conversation with the president of the Obesity Action Coalition. His name's Joe Naglowski, and I was very encouraged by the conversations that I had with Joe. Now, after the roundtable discussion, I sat down and did about an hour podcast interview with a guy named Dr. Biz. So we've been scheduling like some podcasts that are sort of outside of the GLP-1 space to try to bring more people into the tent, so to speak. If you're just tuning in, I want to say hello, welcome, thank you for being here. I also want to encourage you to hit the thumbs up button and hit the subscribe button. And those are going to be some really important things to help other people see this content. I can't tell you how valuable those little thumbs up are here on YouTube, and about 40% of the people that watch our videos aren't subscribed. So if you hit the subscribe button, that really helps our advocacy work as well. But as we moved on from the roundtable discussion, and I'm hoping I invited the president of the OAC, Mr. Naglowski, to come on the podcast, and so we'll have him soon as well. But when we moved on from that, I recorded the podcast, and we immediately went to work in the heart of Washington, D.C. So from there, and we went to the Hart Building, and we actually had a meeting set up with Senator Cassidy's office. So Senator Cassidy, for those of you who don't know, Senator Cassidy is the chairman of the Help Committee. So if we rewind the clock, so one of the cool things, Ann, that happened last year was that the Help Committee, they're the committee that's like, they exist to take a look at like pensions and the cost of health care for government workers, as like they're looking down the road, right, at the future cost of things and how much it's going to cost to cover, you know, what the obligations are going to be for the government. So the Health Committee is obviously keenly interested in GLP-1s because of, as I have like talked your ear off over the last couple of days, and every time I see you basically, about all the amazing things that GLP-1s are doing in terms of reducing diabetes, sleep apnea, heart failure, kidney disease, like basically anything that you could remotely associate to obesity, it improves. And so it also improves the cost of those things. But the cost of these medications are very prohibitive right now. And so I sat down with two representatives from Senator Cassidy's office that are specifically focused on, it looks like we got a $9.99 super chat from Tanya. Thank you, Tanya. Very much appreciate that. I appreciate the thumbs up as well. But so we sat down with two members of his office who are uniquely involved in the Help Committee specifically. Obviously, a senator from Louisiana has a lot of responsibilities, and being the chairman of a specific committee is a huge role. So he has a huge staff underneath him. These were the ones that head up the Help Committee, and specifically like the accessibility to medications and things like that. So Ann, I'm curious to hear from your perspective. So Ann's here as sort of like, I feel like when I'm in front of people like that, like I'm on the stage, like I feel like I'm performing in a way, like I go into like YouTube mode. Blah, 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 blah. Like from your perspective, how do you feel that conversation went?
Well, knowing all of your background and the different jobs you've done, speaking in front of people is something that comes really naturally to you. And I felt like it didn't feel performative to me. It felt like it was proof that you know everything that you talk about on your shows and on your videos. You know it cold, and you're so intensely interested in it that you're constantly learning. And I think that the summary and the delivery was so concise, and they really, didn't give us a whole lot of time.
Yeah, I was like, we sat down and they're like,
you were under the gun.
You have 15 minutes and we have to go.
Yeah.
And I was like,
no,
okay.
You performed under pressure. You weren't blanking. Like it was just all of the really important key points, and you were wrapping it together. And thankfully they weren't super interruptive, and so you really got it out. And they took a lot of notes, so I felt
I didn't really take a breath, so they didn't really have a lot of chance to interrupt.
But it also didn't feel like you were hurried or rushed either. I felt like it went so well, and they seemed really engaged, and like they had at least more than scratched the surface on these topics.
Yeah, that was what I was excited about, because so one of the things that I thought was super cool was that when I did take a breath and they got a chance to talk back, they were very informed. There was one in particular that was in charge of, like, she was like an FDA liaison.
Yeah.
So she was the one that's communicating like with the FDA, and her sort of disposition was like, I think she was trying to sift through a lot of this information herself, which I felt like made the visit very timely for her, because she knew about 503As, she knew about 503Bs, she knew about some of the concerns behind there, and it seemed like she was really representing some of the concerns that maybe was reflecting some of the things that the FDA had told her. She said basically in our research, well, I don't want to get too in depth in what they said, because I think we were actually asked to not. So what I will say about that conversation is I was very impressed with their level of knowledge. Their level of knowledge was very encouraging to me, because I thought I was gonna have to go there and like start from scratch, and I was very encouraged to know that they are informing themselves on a very granular level of the importance of all of this stuff, and so none of it was lost on them. So that was a really positive conversation. I felt like, sounds like Ann kind of got the same vibe too, and we were there on Capitol Hill to offer ourselves to these Senate offices as simply a resource, and in some cases extended a hand to come on and speak to the community. So after we visited Senator Cassidy's office, we actually went down and we visited Senator Fetterman's office. And so Senator John Fetterman, for those of you who don't know, just wrote a wonderful op-ed in the New York Times about his use and benefit of Mounjaro. And so we had reached out previously to his office. He has an open invitation to come on the podcast. I'm really hoping that he will. I'm actually feeling confident that he will once he has time. But we basically just extended ourselves as resources to them as they fight for accessibility. So I really am confident that meaning the community's voices, are really going to be heard over the next very crucial 6 months, I believe. I believe the next 6 months are very crucial. Now I want to like sort of shift the conversation to the overall tone, because again, it felt like everywhere I went, it's like everything was hush hush, and I wasn't like super sure what I could share. But I'm gonna give my like meta 10,000 foot view, to use corporate speak, takeaway from every conversation, because we were also here although our breakout session, roundtable discussion was sponsored by the OAC, it was actually at the Obesity Medicine Association conference, which is a huge trade show for big pharma in obesity medicine. So Lilly's here, Novo Nordisk is here, anybody who's a key player in obesity medicine is here. And so they're speaking as well. And the common theme that I heard everywhere is that the cost of branded medication will be coming down in the near future. We're talking Ozempic, Wegovy, ZEPBOUND, Mounjaro. The cost of these medications will be coming down. We heard that from political sources. We heard that from industry sources. We heard that from advocacy sources. Literally everywhere we turned, it was like, we are so close. We believe that the cost of branded medications will be coming down. Now, one of our focuses and one of the things that we were trying to spread awareness of is that these medications are great, but they're not great if people can't access them, whether that be cost or scarcity. And I believe that that's a system that is built into the FDA, the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, that is woefully inadequate to deal with a medication like an anti-obesity medication that's effective, because there are simply too many people for two companies to meet the demand. And so how do 503Bs that were created by our legislative government, how do we work with them to fulfill the role of meeting the demand and the accessibility issues that face this country? And so that was really the focus of our trip so far. We still have maybe a meeting or two left today, and then I'll be out tomorrow. But this has been a spectacularly encouraging trip for me, just speaking on behalf of the community. And I'm feeling very, very positive about the future direction of all of this. So with that said, and yes, Corey, significantly coming down, I'm talking about targets that are way more on par with what I would say like the average compounding prices are, as maybe a direct cash pay price. And you know, there's a lot of market forces that will cause those things to come down, or Forglipron, Cagrosema. Eventually we'll get other pharmaceutical companies, so we're already just talking about more Lilly and Novo stuff. But I think they understand as companies that the eyes are upon them. And one of the things that my friend Christopher Durham over at the Downsize has said that I think is just a spectacular way of couching this whole thing is Lilly and Novo really have the ability here to be the arch nemesis of people with obesity, or they have the ability to be the heroes. And I would say that by virtue of creating these medications, they're already heroes in my book. But if they really want to become superheroes, they will do the important work of bringing the cost of these medications down so that people can access them in important ways. And they will also make moves to ensure that there's adequate supply to meet demand. And so these are all topics of conversation that we have been focused on here in Washington, D.C. for about the last 36 hours. I am more than ready to take any questions that you all may have in the comments of the video here. If you have questions for me after this thing is live, please send me an email at davidonthepen.com. Make sure that you hit subscribe so that you get notifications. Hit the little bell. That gives you a notification on your phone when we go live, or so much of what we do is breaking news here at On the Pen. So you want to make sure that not only are you subscribed, but you hit the bell for notifications, because that will really help you in the future. So the prices, I do believe, will be coming down. AI Beth or Al Beth said, curious that they asked you not to talk about what was discussed. Do they not have to comply with the Open Meetings Act? That is not my business. I'm sure since there was a pharmaceutical company involved, all their T's were crossed and their I's were dotted. That is not something that was even remotely on my radar. This was definitely more of a roundtable discussion. It was definitely not anything that will shape policy, or it was just, the whole conversation was around obesity bias. It was sort of couched in obesity bias, and definitely there were a lot of people just having really open and great conversations about obesity bias. And
maybe she could also have been referencing our meeting with Senator Cassidy's office.
Oh, yeah, sure. I think they were saying, yeah, so if they were, good point. So if you were speaking about Senator Cassidy's office, it wasn't that they were like, you can't talk about this. It was more of like a, when you are viewed as a member of the press, which On the Pen very much is, people like to distinguish whether a conversation is on the record for print or if it's off the record and something that they don't want to be printed necessarily, which is just it's part of the gig. I have conversations like this every single day where people say, hey Dave, this is on the record or off the record. It's like part of like what forms like the opinions and the views. And when I come on, and so much of what I do is like, it's speculation in a way, but it's such informed speculation, because I can't tell you what industry insiders say when they say this is off the record, don't print it, but I know it. And so it forms my sort of disposition and what I fight for and how I fight for it. And so all of these just put me in a very unique position and put On the Pen in a very unique position to advocate for you all. Corey with a $49.99 super chat. Thank you so much. That's very kind. But yes, a lot of optimism, and the optimism isn't just, so let's talk a little bit about the OFA and the FDA and the lawsuits over semaglutide and tirzepatide. We got actually some pretty great news there too. So in talking with Lee, who is the chairman of the Outsourcing Facilities Association, has become a friend of mine, I have reason to believe, so going into yesterday, I've been very skeptical for about 3 months that we kind of knew how this thing was going to go. Judge Pittman seemed to be a little bit antagonistic to the OFA for whatever reason, I don't know. But yesterday we sort of expected a short hearing and a ruling. And actually what we got was a 2-hour hearing, closed door, and we got hope, because we didn't get a ruling. We'll probably get a ruling within the next few days, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week is when we're expecting to hear from the judge on this. But the fact that he is taking all this information in is positive. So that's where I turn to the semaglutide case. Of course, he denied the preliminary injunction for semaglutide, and there's really some interesting nuance there that I can't get into. But one of the things that I think is interesting about that is that the door is still open on semaglutide too. So depending on how tirzepatide turns out, I think it's very important that if you are experiencing shortages, it doesn't matter what GLP-1 you're on, if you're experiencing shortages in a branded GLP-1, go to onthepen.com/report and just report it to us. We're going to submit that to the OFA. Good, bad, or indifferent. Good, bad, or indifferent. It doesn't matter. If you are finding your medications, we want to know that too. Really what we want to know is, are the shortages over? We actually want to know that, because if they're over, great. That means people are finding their medicine. But if they're not over, we should be able to advocate for the law that literally exists to make sure that people have access to the care that they need. And that's what 503Bs do. And they make essential copies. They're governed by the FDA. They have to report on adverse events. They have to do a lot of things that 503As don't. And so this, in my opinion, and I've been very consistent on this, 503As are the safest non-branded option, and there's a spectrum from there. There's a spectrum because of the amount of oversight or lack thereof in those options. I see a $19.99 super chat from Rhonda. Thank you so much. Can we write, all write to the RFK? The RFK? Can we all write RFK? Yeah, we definitely could. You definitely could write to RFK. We'd love to have RFK Jr. on the podcast. I would love nothing more. I mean, part of my goal, like personal goal in all this, is that I can develop enough relationships that eventually we get aligned into those real high positions of power, and we can go, hey, listen, RFK Jr., we really are on board with the fact that you want to eradicate obesity. We're really on board with the fact that you want to make sure that children don't get exposed to toxins that are going to ruin, be endocrine disruptors and make them live a life that's subjected to medication for the rest of their life because they're sick because of the toxins they've been exposed to. We're all about that. But we are all about also and equally the hundreds of millions of people around the world, and particularly the over 100 million people in the United States who live with obesity or overweight. Type 2 diabetes exponentially grows that number. We're concerned about the level of treatment that is available for them. And we're concerned about accessibility for them. And so that is the news, or that is the message that we would love nothing more than to be able to sit down with RFK Jr. or Dr. Marty Makary. And listen, like we're, you know how when you go on LinkedIn and you're like, you get connected to somebody and you're like, you're a second degree relationship to this person because you have people in common. We're like one position removed from these people. Like we're there. So I assure you, within months, we will have a seat at the table. And this is sort of what I've been preaching about since the beginning of the year, is that all this is great. The news is great, but it's nothing if we can't move the needle on accessibility. So if moving the needle on accessibility is important to you, here's a couple small steps that you can take. You can hit the thumbs up button, you can hit the subscribe button, you can hit the bell notification. That's like free, easy. It helps to get our message out, right? You can visit onthepen.com, sign up for email alerts. All of those things are things that you can do to help. I believe there's a donate page if you'd like. This kind of stuff is very expensive. These kind of trips are very, very expensive. Thankfully, we've been supported by some really great sponsors. Give Roe some love. And so that like takes the heartburn out of it a little bit. But if you want to contribute to the work that we're doing, you can do that. Just go to onthepen.com. I'm sure I have a link there somewhere. For something like that too. So like there are ways that you can support the work that we're doing, but more than anything, the important thing to do is to get the message out. That's literally like takes like you'll even burn a calorie doing it. I think there have been studies done that like the more you like and save and share on social media, you actually burn more calories. Some of you have like a 6-pack on your thumb. I know that. Like, Sue the Dude, I know you got a 6-pack on your thumb. I want to see a picture of that. But that's the deal. So that's the update. Super excited. Oh, and one of the exciting things that I got to do on this trip is I got to meet our friend Mike on a mission. So Mike Donnelly Boylan, I don't know if you all know him so much over on YouTube. He has been on our podcast before, but he is one of the most beloved people in the GLP-1 space. It has been such a delight, and Ann got to spend some time with him like we all did. Like, we've just been hanging out, and he got to tag along with us to these Senate offices. He's like been around the block, so having him here as a resource has been a super exciting thing to be a part of.
Great guy.
Yeah, super sweet guy. And so having him along was really good. So Aussie Craig has a question, and I think Aussie Craig is from Australia, so interesting question about compounding. Do 503B pharmacies pay a license fee to owners? Would that make it easier for 503B? So if you go back and you watch my podcast with Lee Rosebush, who is the president or the chairman of the OFA, you'll know that they have broached that topic with Lilly and Novo, and they've been denied, right? But the reason they've been able to do it within the confines of the law is because the shortages. But the shortage sort of policy in the United States is this very like vaguely written handshake between pharma and the FDA, which there's way too much inbreeding going on as well, which is part of the reason too why I have been excited that RFK Jr. has that on his radar. Like, we've got to get this inbreeding between the FDA and big pharma. It's not good for patients. I'm convinced of it. I know that many of you may have more opinions, and I hope that we can have respectable dialogue in the comments about that. But basically, the drugs aren't in shortage anymore because Lilly said so, because Novo said so. And I think some of the things that may be coming to light in these court proceedings in Dallas may be something to pay attention to. There's a little nugget for you. Did you get to address PA reform, prior authorization reform? So within the context of everything that we were talking about on Capitol Hill, PBM reform, prior authorization reform, those are all topics of conversation. And they're not just topics of conversation that we've had, but they're definitely things that people are looking at, 100%. All sorts of market access issues. Again, my biggest takeaway is I'm so impressed by the depth at which some of these Senate offices have really looked at this. I'm very impressed and encouraged by that. Yeah, Mike on mission, he's great. Oh, thank you, Downsizing Diva. I still need to get your stuff in the mail. I thought about that before I left and I just ran out of time, but you're on my radar. Saw the pic of me and Mike. Yeah, definitely follow along over on TikTok if you want to see some of that stuff as well. You gotta kind of follow me in all the places because I don't post everything everywhere, right? So following me everywhere we're at, like wherever else you hang out on social media, just know that I'm there. Just search On the Pen. I'm sure you'll find me. And follow along wherever. But yeah, you would have already known that. So what are we gonna do today? Like, we got the rest of the day. I think we may have a little bit of work stuff, but like, I see a boat cruise. Should we do a boat cruise? I love Washington, D.C. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. For me to be in Washington, D.C. It has been like a very moving thing for me. I had like, even like last night, we're out in front of the White House, and I did not realize if you're on sort of the back side of the White House, how close you are to the White House. And I was just thinking about all the people who have served in there and all the executive buildings around the White House and all the people who have served and fought for various causes and advocated the way that we are. And it was just a powerful moment to be there. And I even saw the protesters. There were so many protesters because it's Washington, D.C. and just, you know, yelling on the front lawn of the White House, or right within, you know, spitting distance of the front lawn of the White House. And I don't even know what they were yelling about. It's very loud and obnoxious, but I was moved. I was very moved by it because I was just like so thankful that we live in a country where you can literally walk up to the front step of the leader of the nation and yell at him. And I just think that the freedom to speak and the freedom to advocate is something that maybe even I have personally taken for granted the entire 40 years that I've been alive. And I'm so thankful that you as a community have given me the opportunity to realize the sanctity of that and the importance of that, and to be here in a very important city historically and in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. I'm just so thankful for the platform that you all have given me, and I don't have it without each and every one of you. So thank you for the thumbs up, thank you for the subscribes, thank you for the super chats today. I think I saw another one. So thank you all, Downsizing Diva, Corey, really appreciate it. Tanya, thank you for the love. Thank you for being here.
It's a privilege.
Thank
Such a
you for
privilege.
being here. I want to shout out my sister Ann, because I would not have my head on straight here.
I mean, you do okay. You do okay.
I was like, if you don't come, I'm going to be lost.
I'm just like a support person.
Oh, but she helps keep me straight. She's like, here's what we need to do, here's the next thing. And I literally could not do it without her. I'm not wired for it. So if you set me down in front of somebody, I will preach the gospel. But you got to help me get there. So thanks to Hambone too. Thank you all again, and we'll have more updates. I'll have pictures as well that we can share as well. But thank you. I just thank you all so much for the support, and we will catch you on the next one that we do here. And I just appreciate y'all. Thanks.